Hi there, and welcome to this week's vlog. It's so good to have you with me. And if you are a regular viewer of my vlogs, you will realise that I'm not in the same place where I normally record my vlogs. Usually record them at home. We're not at home this week. We've been spending a few days, that's me and my wife Sue and my sister Jenny and our husband David. We've been in the beautiful Northumbrian town of Alnwick, spelled Alnwick. So two silent letters in the name. It's a great place to be. Lots of interesting shops, lots of good coffee shops, places to a fantastic fish and chip shop called Carlo's. But anyway, you don't need to know about the places to eat unless you come to Alnwick. And there's lots of great places. I would recommend Alnwick. In fact, on the coastline, some great beaches. Just a shame that it's quite far north in the country, therefore the weather doesn't tend to be all that warm at times. But we loved our time here. We've been to Holy Island, we've been to a few National Trust places and one or two others also. Loved our time. And I wanted to record a vlog while this is still in my mind, because where we're staying in this self-catering property, ideally placed for the town centre, just down the road is the local Baptist church, Alnwick Baptist Church. And we thought on Sunday morning that as it's so handy, we'll just go along to the Baptist church. We were made extremely welcome. We had a great time, lovely service. And it so happens that they have a monthly evening service, which was to be a reflective communion service. So we decided we'd go back on the Sunday evening. And the pastor was leading the service, and he was talking as he developed the service in a reflective way about that passage in the Gospels where the two disciples making their way to Emmaus after Jesus had been crucified, and they were filled with sadness and probably despair, despondency, because Jesus, the one who they were following, had died. And they thought all their hopes had evaporated, and someone came and walked with them. It was actually Jesus, but they were kept from recognizing him. So the pastor used elements of the story as it went along to help us to reflect on the Christian life. And the one element that I want to highlight was that towards the beginning, when they are the two men, or we don't know if there were two men, there were two people walking along. Some think it was because one of them is named Cleopas, and some think the other person was his wife, but who knows? Jesus walked with them. They didn't recognize him. They were kept, it says, from recognizing him. And imagine the despair of these two disciples. That all their hopes had been pinned in Jesus, the one they believed was Messiah, but then they'd seen him crucified. He was dead. It seems that their hopes had evaporated. And the pastor was sharing an incident a few months ago. You may remember the Women's World Cup final, football World Cup final, England against Spain. And it just so happened that the pastor and his family were travelling by car to France. And his two sons were sat in the back of the car using his phone to watch the match. So he couldn't see it, obviously, he was driving, but he could hear it. And they were set off on their journey. They were filled with hope that England would win the World Cup at long last. But of course, as the match went on, Spain scored. And eventually, as much as England tried, they weren't able to find an equalising goal. So Spain lost. And the pastor said, as the match came to an end, the referee blew the final whistle. There was just a silence in the car, an air of despondency. And one of his sons says, "This shouldn't have happened. It was never meant to be like this." In other words, they'd expected an England victory, and an England defeat was never envisaged. It was never meant to be like that. And he used the story of the two disciples on the road to Emmaus, who themselves must have been thinking, we believed in Jesus, we believed he was the Messiah, and now we know that he's dead. He died. He was crucified. It was never meant to be like that. And the point that Pastor made at this point was that in their despair, in their despondency, it was Jesus who came and walked alongside them. Jesus came to them in their despair, in their despondency, in the depth of their sadness. He was there with them. And he did, in a wonderful way, develop that story. But the point of this part of his message was that, we may well face times when we wonder why such a thing happened. Why has God allowed that? It was never meant to be like that, was it? We may feel in that place of despair and despondency and sadness and confusion. But in the midst of that, Jesus comes and walks alongside us. He is with us. His promise before he left the disciples finally was to say, I will be with you always. So that should be a great encouragement to us. Not that we as followers of Jesus will be exempt from times of sadness and despair and confusion, but that in them he will always be with us. And I'm reminded of that wonderful verse in Psalm 23, the shepherd's psalm. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Why? For you are with me. And understand that it says, not that when I walk around the valley of the shadow of death, but when I walk through. So God sometimes allows us to walk through those dark valleys. But in that, he always says, I will be with you. I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. So that's good news for us, isn't it? So whether you're in a dark place right now or in a good, light, happy place, may God bless you and may you know that he is with you always. God bless. Thank you so much for watching today.